Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 162. England against South Africa in the final of the 2019 Rugby World Cup. History in the making. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, 2 days to go. This is getting huge. Dan, this is huge.
Mate, I think this might be the biggest pod we will ever do.
It's going to be the only pod we'll ever do, but...
yeah, well, as in this episode. Because the next one, obviously during the game, won't be heard till after the game when we're world champions. But this is it. This is the last pod before 9 a.m. on Saturday where the guys out there fight for immortality and become absolute legends of English sport.
Yeah, you're right. This is the last time our listeners will hear from us before our prediction either comes true or falls flat on its arse. Obviously, leaning towards the coming true part. Yeah.
It's because some people, I think that we need to remember. Yes, we beat Australia well, and we were awesome against the All Blacks, but we've still got to be a really good team on Saturday.
Yeah, we do, and that's part and parcel of winning a World Cup. You know, there's no real easy rides. You know, the teams that you're facing are there, particularly once you get to the knockout stages. They're there because they've won games where they needed to win games to get themselves in that position. And there's always going to be a favourite. There's always going to be an underdog. And results will typically dictate that. But, you know, this is professional sport at the highest level and anything goes on the day. And, you know, you can't just look at the last result and go, well, everyone's going to repeat what they did and therefore the outcome is already clear. But we're going to do our best to discuss this game in a way that definitely leans in that direction and makes it quite clear that England have got this covered.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, mate. And do you know what? I'm sure we have. I've been watching, over the last few days, I've been watching loads of the sort of like the Rising Suns, the highlights of the England-New Zealand, obviously watched 2003 final again. And 2003 final has no relevance to this, but the rest of it, England seem in a good place. They don't seem to have got ahead of themselves. They seem to, whereas you and I and others, I'm sure, are getting overly carried away. They don't seem to have. They seem ready.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. But let's come back to that because that's what this is going to be all about. And before we get stuck in, you know, we've been getting some comments and some feedback and some reviews and things. So it's always good to share that at the beginning. So I just want to start with an email from our good friend Sean Farrell.
Nice.
He says, hello, gents. The game between England and the All Blacks certainly didn't disappoint. And I wanted to say that I found Dan's jokes to be utter class. Honestly, I think he made the wrong career move.
Thanks, Sean.
As a previous listener tried to describe you two, I thought I'd give my 5 cents too. Andy, I think you're quite tall and wear spectacles. I also think you've got dark hair and like wearing button shirts with polka dots on. In other words, classy. Dan, I mean, where do we begin? I think I think you didn't like your beard originally, but it grew on you. I also have to be honest, I feel as if you're the type of person to have a lucky pair of socks. Maybe a more casual version of Andy. Back to the rugby. Do you think England should play May if he's not 100% fit? We want our wingers to be clinical, and I have my doubts as to whether his pace is unhindered by his injury. It wouldn't be the end of the world to play Noel and have Big Joe on the bench. Also, I think South Africa will be very physical, and I hope England don't get lured into an arm wrestle. They need quick ball, and I think under Curry will be more important than ever to stop scavenging Bok forwards. I think Deolande is in rousing form, so I hope Manu brings him down to earth hard and that Ford's channel holds up. First 20 minutes should set the tone for this match. Let's go England. Thanks for the 3-year journey, fellows. It's been marvellous. Whatever happens on Saturday, I hope your banter lives on.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Sean. He's probably, well, a few things. He's not far off you. You are tall. What, you 6'3", something like that. You're dark hair, right? You don't have the glasses. You
don't own a polka dot shirt, but
yeah, not a polka dot shirt. I mean, you're quite smart, but you're quite
definitely classy.
Compared to me, you're classy, and compared to me, you're a lot more fashionable.
To be fair, though, you are more like Wurzel Gummidge, so to be described as classy compared to you,
yeah.
I think the only thing he got wrong with you is that there's no beard, and that's only because when you grow a beard, you tend to look a little bit pedo.
yeah, that's not far. If you're the beard man, I'm more a sort of jeans or boardies t-shirt type person, and Andy's quite fashionable, tall with a beard, but yeah. No, that's not bad.
Should we focus on the rugby?
Yeah, let's do that.
He asks the question of Johnny May. Personally, I would say if Johnny May wasn't 100% fit, then he wouldn't be selected. I don't think that Eddie with the options that Eddie has at the back. Yes, Johnny May is quickest guy in world rugby or whatever he's at the moment and vitally important. But as Sean points out, you've got Jack Knoll, who may or may not still be injured. I'm not sure what the situation is there. You've got Joe Cokanasiga. There are options, and I don't think they would be putting May in if they didn't think he was fit. He even said, in fact, I think training on Monday, run through, they were actually having to tell Johnny May to just take it easy because he was absolutely firing. So it's a different injury. The one that he sustained that took him off the pitch is different to the one that he had. So I think it was a hamstring. I think was it a hamstring before the New Zealand game, which potentially had an impact on him, and it ultimately came off. But actually, I think he didn't come off with a quad issue. There was something that I think they were different problems. But I don't think they would play him if he wasn't 100% fit. So the fact that he's been selected, to me, that says he's 100% fit.
Even if they rolled the dice with playing him, I think on the bench they would have put another winger on instead of Slade and JJ. So I'm pretty confident he's 100% fit. And Johnny May these days is just such a world-class winger. I'm going to go so far as to say I think he might be the best winger in the world.
Interesting.
There
aren't many teams that wouldn't seriously consider putting him in their starting 15.
There's no team he wouldn't be in the starting 15.
He goes on to say South Africa will play a very physical
for
game,
sure.
And he hopes England don't get lured into an arm wrestle. Now, I don't think they will. I think this goes back to what you said a moment ago, Dan, about the way that they just kind of they seem ready. I think they're so kind of composed at the moment, and they're so clear on what they need to do. I think they'd almost say, do you know what? If South Africa want to have an arm wrestle, then we'll send in half our team to wrestle them, while the others cause havoc around the sort of the edges and around the breakdowns and out wide. And I just think they've got a game plan for that. I don't see them getting sucked into a game that forces them to forces the finals to turn out to be a game like Wales against South Africa last weekend. And we'll come on to it, but it's interesting that they've made one very significant change, but which we'll talk about. But generally, they haven't made any changes, which would imply that they're not necessarily looking to do. They're not necessarily looking to play a very different kind of game plan. Anyway, I'm digressing because we are going to discuss this, and I want to get through the rest of these reviews. The last thing, under Curry, I like it. I like it.
I'm jealous that they've got that name and not me.
Well, yeah, I hear. No, I see what you're saying. I mean, under Curry, it's good. But I'm thinking you got to throw Billy in there. I say I'm thinking. I've obviously seen it on Twitter already, and it's been stolen by the boys at Egg Chasers. Although to be fair, they did give it credit, and that was it under Cola or?
Oh, nice.
Vunapunda or Vunakunda.
Vunakunda.
There's some brilliant name of the three pinned together, but under Curry, fair enough. It does sound like something that you have in the morning after a nasty curry.
Yeah. I've many of them. I can't believe from 2 years ago how much our back row is now the best in the world. I truly believe that.
Oh, they are awesome, and they just sort of fit together like a perfect jigsaw. They just offer everything you need a back row to offer, which is amazing. And let's just hope that they all come through this unscathed. And and they're so young. This is a back row that's still going to be the same back row in all likelihood in 4 years' time.
Mate, there's no way they'll be the same back row. The way those boys put their body on the line, I'd be amazed if they're walking in 4 years' time.
Don't worry about that. Trust me.
All I'm worried about is if they play like they've been playing this Saturday, that is a massive advantage. Those two are hard as nails and they're awesome. And I heard a pod the other day. I think it might have been Flats and Shanks when they were saying about they've changed tackling because everyone was thinking you have to tackle a bit higher to stop the offload. But if you tackle around the waist, like Underhill and Curry tackling around the waist, because they smash people back, you can't offload anyway. So they are leading. Those guys are awesome. I'm so glad they're playing on Saturday. I think they're a massive key to us winning this game.
Oh, mate, 100%. But this is what it's all about, isn't it? You've got everyone has their role. They're vitally important, but Maro Itoje in the second row, and Sinks and Jamie George in the front row. Obviously Vernopola's both. The whole lot. Courtney Laws, what he brings in the midfield, not in the midfield, in the middle of the scrum. Just across the board, they've all got their role to play, and I think that's just what makes this so brilliant to watch. Just quickly, I had to look it up because it was annoying me that I was getting it wrong. Kundapola.
I like that.
Kundapola and Kundahill was the original that led on to that. But yeah, awesome back three. Moving on, his final point is he thinks Dale Ande is in rousing form. He describes and wants Manu to bring him down to earth. Against Wales, he scored one try, South Africa's only try, and it was very poor defence. I mean, he ran through 4 or 5 tackles, but they weren't. I mean, to call them tackles or even attempted tackles is doing too much justice to Wales. I just wonder whether England dealt with Karevi, and to me, someone like Karevi is far more of a threat.
So I agree. Karevi is a threat, but don't forget you had a different lineup.
For sure.
Whereas Dale Ande, he is powerful and he's a strong runner and he is a threat. That was one of the things I heard. Will he attack Ford? I think Ford's defence is fine. He's not going to smash anyone.
He doesn't need to.
No, exactly. But I think it's fine. And when you've got the kamikaze kids on the prowl.
Exactly. But George Ford is the most protected man in world rugby right now. He's basically got Kundapola, watching his back. So all he's got to do is get round the ankles, slow the guy down, and let Curry, Underhill, or Billy, or Maro, or Maro's got more turnovers than anyone else. Just he doesn't need to knock them back in the tackle. That's not his job. His job is to put them on the floor. Even if they make a couple of yards, it's almost better, in fact, that he takes them around the ankles and they naturally go kind of over the top of him, sort of further towards the England line, giving the poachers the opportunity to get in over the top and turn that ball over. So I think he should be feeling pretty confident. And I think if South Africa's game plan is to target George Ford, I think they might have a rather nasty surprise.
Yeah, I think so, because George Ford, I don't think he's given credit for his defence. His defence isn't British. It's not a Johnny defence, but he doesn't miss many tackles. He doesn't push you out back down. He doesn't do like Dan Biggar the other week. Dan Biggar kind of let him through. George Ford won't do that. George Ford will tackle him. Yes, he might make ground, but fine. Then, like you say, you've got Kundapola or whatever they're called, backing him up. So we're good. We're good.
Against South Africa, against New Zealand. So I told you about a chat I was having with someone on Twitter, and I had to look up some stats. And against New Zealand, our top tackler was Underhill with 16.
Yeah.
Our second top tackler was joint between Maro and Owen Farrell with 15. And in third place, George Ford with 13.
Yeah.
So, he made 13 tackles against New Zealand. And people will argue, well, it's not about the number of tackles, it's about the impact those tackles have. Well, I think actually, as long as you're making your tackles, when you're playing that close to a roaming group of legends like Kundapola, as long as you're making your tackles, and, like I say, he made 13 of them there, those guys, we got a record number of turnovers off the back of it. So I would say bring it on. Let him run at George Ford all day long. Let George Ford make those tackles around the ankles, and it doesn't have to knock them back in those tackles. And let the poachers come in and wreak havoc. Anyway, we've spent a lot of time looking at this one review. Let's move along. I'm going to come back to that one quickly. We've got a couple of iTunes reviews. One from Airborne FF again. It says, just heard Dan's jokes. Maybe a night out isn't a good idea. Yeah, and I agree. And then we've also 5 stars. And another 5 stars from Jorge, 160684, says, love this pod. Best England rugby coverage that is out there. You guys have to continue to do this. By far the best pod I've listened to.
Awesome, thank you.
It's the only pod he's listened to as well. But that's not the point. It remains the best one. So yeah, appreciate those 5 stars and your comments there, Jorge. Or if that's how you say it, I don't know. Maybe it's Jorge. And then, finally, we've had an email, Dan, from Halsey, Richard Howells, who we obviously went to uni with, who's been living out in Australia. He says, dear Wood Over Shoulders, hope this email finds you both well. It's been a long time since Being half Australian, half Welsh, Londoner, now living in Melbourne even, I'm clearly very confused. Firstly, Australian rugby is in a terrible condition, and will need a lot of rebuilding to get close to other nations in the next 4-year cycle. As a passionate Welsh rugby fan, my heart was broken on Sunday with one of the worst games of rugby I've ever watched. The arm wrestle just went the wrong way, and I can't blame Gatland for his tactics. It very nearly worked. However, it was disappointing to lose without firing a proper shot at South Africa. I've dipped in and out of your pod, mainly focusing around major tournaments, as clearly I'm not that keen on just hearing about England, but loved the demise England had in the last Six Nations. Of course he did. I wanted to drop you a line on 2 counts. 1, massive congrats on 161 plus podcast episodes you've done. That's a huge achievement and they are very entertaining. 2, I was so impressed by England's performance in the semis. For the first time in my life, I will, still begrudgingly, be supporting England in the final. This team doesn't seem to have the arrogance / can't like them aura of the 03 team, which had unlikable characters from a non-English supporter's perspective, like Delalio, Lucy, Cohen, Dawson, etc. This young team has a great style of play and are great to watch. I think it'll be closer than most people are thinking on Saturday. Finals always are. Best of luck and keep up the good work, Halsey.
Mate, that's awesome to hear from Halsey. Halsey, I hope you're well, brother. So, Halsey, one thing I'd say when you say about the 2003 team, is it because you think they were arrogant, or is it because of the fact you were surrounded by us pricks who kept rubbing it into your face about how good we were? Because obviously we were all at uni then. Do you remember, so Halsey, for those who don't know, like a mate of ours from uni.
Everyone.
yeah, for everyone. The best way to describe Halsey, age 21, 22, balding, loved to wear chinos and a shirt, looked like a complete pussy, was annoyingly tough and annoyingly good at rugby. He looked like you say, Wurzel Cummings. He looked like that on the pitch, but he was a Welsh fan, which obviously had a massive hindrance on a lot of things.
Mate, I think look, you're missing the big thing here.
He's going to be supporting England.
We've turned the Welshman.
Mate, I still don't fully trust it. I think Halsey's going to turn up on the day and just be like, just kidding, fuck you bitches.
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. I guess the thing is, if you're a Welsh fan, you just got knocked out by South Africa. It's a tough call to say you want to support the team that just knocked you out of the World Cup.
It's a good call, but mate, it's great to hear from him, mate.
Actually, if you're a Welsh fan, you'd almost want England to win, so that come Six Nations, you've got a shot at the world champions. Yeah,
exactly. That's a good email. I like what you said, and I agree what you said about the Welsh game. And Warren Gatland, as much as we've mugged him off over years, he's a great coach.
Of course.
And like you said, that game could have gone either way. It's easy now to say Wales should have done this, more should have done that. But actually, if they'd won, it would have been the perfect game plan. So, it's such a tough one. Wales have achieved a lot recently, and they're just not as good as England.
Indeed. Dan, I want to ask you about... So England are looking relaxed and calm and composed, and obviously, this is one of the things I'm loving about this team at the moment. And it's not an arrogance. They just look like they're consummate professionals, that they're constantly working hard. They have a goal. They want to keep getting better. There doesn't seem to be any of that arrogance. I personally, obviously, as an England fan, we didn't see that. And I'm sure it's the same for everyone. We talk about arrogant Kiwis and arrogant Welsh and arrogant Scots and Irish and blah blah blah. I'm sure every nation thinks that of the teams that they're playing against. But this team they do their talking on the pitch, and they're getting better with each game. And it's games like the New Zealand match. I sent you that picture.
I love that.
I'm getting it framed, regardless of the result on Saturday, because when you see a picture of Owen Farrell smirking with the entire All Blacks team down on one knee, now, admittedly, if you know what the haka is, it's part of their war dance, but the picture just looks like they're bowing to him, and it's amazing. And he's got that smirk on his face, and I love it. It's just, it's great, and it's not an arrogance. Obviously it's being called that, but it's not. And bottom line is, arrogance and confidence, fine line, and it's about backing it up.
So it was interesting because obviously we touched on this last time, but England have officially now been fined $2,000 for.
Is it 2 or 2.5?
$2,000, according to the article I read. It was right. $2,000 on BBC, and a few things here. Firstly, and to New Zealand's massive credit, Steve Hansen and Dane Coles both said, "I thought it was awesome." Yeah. They accepted the challenge. So fair play to New Zealand. New Zealand, this is not anything New Zealand have done. This is World Rugby. And secondly, quite frankly, $2,000 to not be a bitch worth the money.
I think 100% worth it. Look, it's 64. Yeah. It's £64.52 each if you're charging the entire 31. Even if you decided to go with the 23 on the day, it's only £86.96. So
nice. I like that.
Quick mental arithmetic. I don't have a calculator in front of me.
I think before I paid $2,000 to be someone's bitch, so it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Maybe what you're saying, New Zealand should pay.
Exactly.
Interestingly, so obviously this is kind of erupted on Twitter, and everyone's saying how outrageous it is, and of course you've got all the sort of the. To be fair, most Kiwi fans saying they think it's outrageous too. I don't think there are many people that genuinely believe that it's a fair. That's the right call. But then you have those nauses that are saying, well, the rules are the rules. They've been told they're not allowed to step over the halfway line. If you step over the halfway line, you should accept the consequences, which, fair enough. But, so I thought, well, I'll do some nausy digging myself. And I found the photo of the whole thing being performed. And if we're going to go down the rule of, rules are rules, because at the end of the day, England were what? Half a metre, maybe a metre over the line, metre and a half if you're Joe Marler. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't like they were seriously encroaching on the All Blacks' personal space. But if you look closely, Kieran Reid, who's supposed to stand behind the 10-metre line, clearly has at least his big toe of his left foot hanging over the line. And if rules are rules, if rules are rules, Dan, I'm just saying, precedent has now been set. It's worth the fine. It's a bit of a joke. I'm glad that the All Blacks have come forward, or that they've got people who've come forward and just said what's going on. Like, don't be ridiculous. This is part of the game, and we love it. Unfortunately, I think all of this, everything that's happened with the haka, and particularly now this incident, it's all leaning towards the haka changing. And I, as much as I love it, and I don't want to lose it from rugby, because I think it's great. It's a great spectacle. It's lost its culture. They talk about it being a cultural thing. Is it really though? I mean, if you look back at that haka from the 1970s, that was the haka. And now you look at it, and it's been turned into a with throat slitting and all the rest of it, and it's been turned into something very different. Hang on, so it's also been commercialised because it's been used in various forms of advertising. And And I think all of that aside, if there are going to be these issues where the opposition are being made to line up in front of them, and there are rules about where they can stand and how they can act and what they can do, then I think at the very least it needs to be taken off the table as the last act before kickoff, and it needs to happen before the anthems, because it's not right that you should tell the opposing team that they have to stand in a line and face this thing as a rule, and then not, and then you sort of have these stringent what you're not allowed to do in response to it type rules. I just think if it's cultural, then it's not about the impact it has on the opposition. It's just about doing this thing that means a lot to you. So why does it need to be the last act before kickoff? Have it before the anthems. It can still have its cultural place in the game. The All Blacks can still get whatever they want to get from it. The opposition don't need to face it. The opposition, can do what they want to do. The crowds can turn up and watch it if that's what they want to do. From an advertising perspective, the sponsorship perspective and everything else, it's all still there. But it stops becoming a potentially beneficial tool for the All Blacks, which, let's be honest, it is, because it's designed to psych the All Blacks up. And I know that lots of players have come forward saying they loved it and it psyched them up too. But I think when you set such stringent rules for how oppositions are allowed to deal with it, you're automatically giving an advantage to the All Blacks. And in professional sport, when it's not like it was a bit of fun like back in the amateur days. This is professional sport, people's livelihoods relying on results and everything else. You just can't have even the slightest risk of giving one side an advantage over another.
So a couple of things here. Firstly, for those who don't realise, you might think Andy's joking with Manta. He 100% watched that video and 100% would have measured Kieran Reid's feet and
why are you needing to tell people that? I just told people that.
I know, but people might be like, "Oh, he's just joking."
No jokes.
Yeah, Andy did that. You're lucky you're married, otherwise you would never get laid again. But mate, I disagree. I love the hugger. I think it's part of it. I don't want to change it. Two grand fines almost from World Rugby. Like, we kind of have to because we set the rules. I don't really care. I'm like, whatever. I actually think the fact we're talking about it, to me, shows why it's worth having, because it adds drama, it adds a spectacle.
But I like it. So you think that because let's be honest, what we love most about it is when there's drama, when there's a spectacle, which only happens when people break the rules. Which means we're basically saying the hacker's only good if you're not a Kiwi when people are getting fined. Like, it's fundamentally. As I said, I don't want to get rid of it. I think it's great. I'm not buying into the cultural side of it the way that they imply, because I don't think that's the reason that they actually do it. I think if it was, there'd be absolutely no. If it genuinely was the reason, there'd be no debate about. They wouldn't care when they did it. Like, look what happened when Wales said you can do it, but you have to do it before the anthems because we're gonna sing our anthem after it, and they said fine, we'll do it in the changing rooms then. They wouldn't do it out on the pitch unless Wales let them do it as the last act before kickoff. Well, pretty sure that the haka, which wasn't designed for rugby, even though it has been redesigned for rugby, reinvented for rugby, it doesn't. It's not, unless you're getting an advantage from it. Why does it need to be the last act before kickoff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that, and I don't mind. I like the spectacle of it. I remember seeing it at Twickenham once, where it wasn't a drama haka; it was just a standard one. I thought it was brilliant. I'm not going to comment on the cultural aspect of it because I just don't know. I think it's massively important to the Kiwis, though, and I don't want to. And I don't want to undermine that.
It's 100% important. I just question what that importance is. Whether it's truly about respecting history and culture, or whether it's about we've always done it. It's part of our rugby team thing that we do. And we like the fact that it, because bottom line, look at that picture when the roles were, when the kind of the sort of the image is reversed following a defeat, and you're looking at this picture of the All Blacks on their knees in front of Owen Farrell, who's there with his hands on his hips, looking like some sort of, victorious warrior.
Like Cersei's from 300.
Okay. But that's I just feel like that's what the All Blacks are trying to use it for, is to give themselves a little bit of a sort of advantage.
Oh, maybe, but as it turned out,
on this occasion, 100%. On this occasion, but this all comes back to the point about you're getting fined for standing 2 meters over the halfway line. World Rugby need to be, I just think you should be able to respond to it however you like, within the rules of what is a kind of acceptable in the game. So obviously, you go up and you actually start a fight with them. Yeah, that's obviously not acceptable.
Yeah,
but if you want to front up to it, why not?
Yeah. So how about that on this note, because obviously today's the key is about Saturday.
Yeah, we're talking about the wrong team.
Yeah. No, but it's fine because I think as a thing, I mean, there's no sort of there's no sort of play or showcase that's going to necessarily show the confrontation. Do you think on Saturday there'll be anything before the game, any mind games before the game that either team will try and play to get one over, whether it be 5 minutes late out the changing room or whatever?
No, I don't think, not for a World Cup final. I think they're all going to want to be on that pitch soaking up as much as they possibly can, aren't they? I would imagine.
I hope so.
I don't think there'll be games like that. I'm sure there'll be a few shots fired in the media. I know Erasmus has said that he's not going to get involved in all of that, but I'd be amazed if there isn't something fired from his camp in respect to Farrell's tackling.
It hasn't really yet, though. It's Thursday, and it hasn't really yet.
No, but there's still time, Dan.
There is.
Mark my words, we'll see something. Eddie will have some comment. Apart from anything else, it's about getting in the referee's head as well. They all want to get advantage. England are in. Would you say a unique position? No, they're probably not. So he reffed the Wales South Africa game, didn't he?
What, Jerome Garces? No, he reffed our match.
What? No,
obviously he reffed our match against Australia, didn't he? Yeah. He reffed the Wales South Africa match. He
did ref Wales South Africa, didn't he?
Yeah.
So is that advantage? Is that advantage South Africa because they went on to win that game?
No, not at all.
Or is it advantage England because England have obviously, against Australia, England clearly had the advantage significant. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know that referees are, professional and they're not they don't have a preference and blah blah blah. But the bottom line is certain things stick in your head.
Yeah, I don't think it'll make a difference because there was no major incidents in either occasion.
The big one is at scrum time. It's such a 50-50 call these days. And if you can get on the right side of the referee, if you can convince the referee that you're the team that's in the ascendancy, then that can be a massive advantage for the rest of the game. And obviously Australia tried to put pressure, particularly on Kyle Sinclair, and he dealt with it. But that's going to be talk about arm wrestles. That's going to be a big part of this as well. Is just convincing Jerome Garces that we are the team that are in the right. Because once he sees it a certain way, it's very difficult to see it the other way because they're such 50-50 calls often.
Yeah, the scrum battle's going to be huge. I think Jerome Garces has been brilliant in this tournament. I'm not really interested to see because I don't think. Do you know who the TMO ref is?
Who do you think?
Please tell me it's not Ben Keith or whatever.
Yeah. And
are you kidding?
It's not Keith, is it? It's Ben Skeen.
Skeen, the Kiwi guy.
Yeah. The one who said to Jerome, yeah, mate, let's forward. Sorry, they're okay. I'm okay with both of those. And Garces was like, what are you on about? Like, they're both forward, quite clearly. So I guess the good news is we've got a referee who's prepared to overrule the TMO.
Yeah.
Which I think is important because a couple of times I felt in the England-New Zealand game, there was a couple of times when it almost felt like he was sort of apologising for the decisions he was making because the TMO had spoken and therefore he had to make these decisions.
I think it's strong enough. Yeah, like you say, it's good. But Jerome Garces, I think Nigel Owens definitely as well. But I think Jerome Garces is strong enough to say, "Shut up, dickhead."
I really hope that's exactly what he says. That would be amazing. Yeah,
that would be amazing.
Chick. So let's hope we don't have too many of those in the game on Saturday. I want to turn back down to this phrase that seems to have been used rather a lot recently, which is arm wrestle. We've used it ourselves a few times in this episode. Was Saturday? With looking at South Africa Wales, was that an arm wrestle? I mean, both teams seem pretty happy to just keep kicking the ball back to the opposition and trying to let them make mistakes. I don't think that's an arm wrestle. An arm wrestle to me is a super physical game. Two defences absolutely clattering each other, and it's literally like trying to squeeze over the line. And it didn't feel like that to me. Neither team really offered much of an attacking threat. I struggle to see that one as an arm wrestle.
I think it's an arm wrestle, as in I think the metaphors meant as in it's
ballroom dance, or no, that's too.
Ballroom dance. I think that's a better metaphor.
Yeah, that is a better. It's not a ballroom dance. That would suggest,
ballet was the game on Saturday. I think we'll be surprised by South Africa. There's all the chat is about them going and just trying to take the physical game. I actually think. I think it's trying to be almost trying to be like sneaky. I think they'll come out and try and play rugby. I really hope, and I'm sure England will as well, because that's how England are going to win, by coming out and playing rugby. If both teams play rugby to the best of their ability, there's not a doubt in my mind England win this. And win this, I'm not saying well by loads, but win it sort of deservedly, and because I believe England are the better rugby team.
So Dan, in both teams, so obviously England have made one change in Ben Spencer, who comes in for the injured Willie Hines. Other than that, no changes from the semi-final against New Zealand. And in South Africa's case, injured Colby comes back, obviously a massive threat.
He's good.
I can't remember who he's in for. Sadly, I just don't know enough about South African rugby, because I don't get access to it, and I don't see them play enough. So most of it is what I've seen in the World Cup. He's obviously a major threat that needs to be dealt with. But he's the only change on the South African side, and positionally everyone else is exactly the same as their semi-final. Two very different semi-finals. Is this? Would you say that so making no changes would imply that they're not going to have a major change in their game plan either? Even with Eddie, we've seen significant changes to the makeup of the 15. Even if the 23 has remained pretty much the same. We've seen changes to the 15, like when he took Ford out and brought Farrell inside to 10, in order to play a slightly different game plan. Do you think this is advantage England? And I appreciate that both teams have made no changes, so you could argue it the other way as well. But giving Eddie that extra time to kind of go, well, they're going to do the same again.
No, I get what you mean, because South Africa didn't. I think South Africa did what they needed to do to beat Wales. Looking at South Africa's players they've got in the back, they are good enough to still play rugby. And Cheslin Colbert is a great player. He's that one change does make a massive threat. You've still got. Bearing in mind, you've still got Faf de Klerk, you've still got Willie
so let me pitch it to you in a different way then. For England, they need to go out there, they need to obviously do their job, they need to up their intensity again, because it's a World Cup final, it needs a little bit more than a semi-final, but this is what they've been doing throughout the tournament, and they need to deliver more of the same, really. Just, it's working, so don't change it if it's not broken, but just up that intensity and just, step it up another gear, because why wouldn't you? It's a World Cup final. For me, though, South Africa need a completely new approach, because I genuinely think if South Africa play the type of rugby that they played against Wales in the final, they get beaten.
Yes, agreed. But
so that's a much bigger ask, to say you've got to go and completely change your approach. In England, you've just got to do more of the same.
The reason I don't think it... Yes, so I agree to an extent. Where I slightly disagree, I think South Africa are capable of playing that attacking rugby and have showed it recently with this team. So I don't think it's asking them to play a brand new game. I think it's asking them to play a new game compared to what they played to the semi-final. Whereas you're right with England, if England carry on playing how they're playing, I think South Africa are in a lot of trouble. If South Africa managed to get England into a sort of street fight or an arm wrestle or a ballroom dance, which I prefer, then that's ballet.
Skip rope.
Oh, nice. Soggy biscuit.
All right, mate. All right.
Too far. That's where I think England are in. That's where I think England are in trouble. But I don't think England will play that way. I think you've got two really good teams, full of good players playing rugby, and I'll be really intrigued as to how South Africa play. They will 100% try and take some physically up front. I think they'll realise fairly quickly. I hope they'll realise fairly quickly that's not going to work that well, because we have got the strength up front as well as the mobility up front. And if it came to a point where up front, say in the scrum, they were just getting better than us, we've got Marler, we've got Cole. It's something we can, we've got the remedy to that fairly quickly. So it's going to be a really interesting. I think this is the most rugby we've ever spoken about. It's going to be a really interesting, the strategies of both teams. But I agree with you slightly, because England need to do much of the same. But they do much of the same against a team. The South Africans will be so physical.
Don't forget, we have Sir Eddie. And,
we do.
And, he's a tactical genius. He'll have a plan. They'll be working on things specifically for South Africa, because they've done it for every single game that they've played in. So when I say more of the same, it's not going to be the same game plan. It's going to be it's going to be adapted for South Africa. And that's not to say that South Africa won't be doing the same thing in preparation for taking on England. But England just seem to have, going back to those words, calm, composed, clinical. They've been so good at identifying what needs to be done and making it happen. And maybe if things did go wrong, maybe people would say, "Oh, they've only got one game plan. It's the one that they've prepared." But they don't. They've played in multiple different ways in this World Cup. They've shown their ability to adapt. And they've always been on the front foot. But I think I said to you months ago when we were talking about this idea of England are only good when they're on the front foot. You can't start planning for not being on the front foot. You have to back yourselves to put yourselves in the position to be on the front foot. And you need to be able to react when that doesn't work. But you need to be going into the game saying, no, we're going to control this. We're going to get ourselves on the front foot. And actually, the plan when you're not on the front foot is to reverse that and get back on the front foot again. So, yes, South Africa are going to be physical. But like you say, I think England have, they have what it takes to soak that up and to be pretty physical themselves. So it will be an interesting arm wrestle. I saw a brilliant meme, and I'm gutted that it wasn't the other way around. But you'll like this. It was a picture of Vermeulen, and it had the words "Vunipola, who's she?"
Oh,
naughty.
That's very naughty. It's quite funny though.
Yeah, it's one to make you chuckle randomly throughout the rest of the episode.
It will do every now and again. I'll be like, I had something to say there, and that's completely thrown me off. Well,
it was obviously an important thing.
Yeah, obviously important. I'm not overly concerned. We got to bear in mind South Africa you have sort of, if de Klerk, who's world class, does have this great game, you've got the likes of Jantjies, you've got the likes of staying on the bench. They have still got an awesome bench, and they can come on, they can threaten. But
I think the good thing about the Faf being one of their major threats is that he plays in England, and so these boys all have played against him regularly, and they know how he plays. Where other teams, where Southern Hemisphere teams, a lot of other teams who don't play their domestic rugby in England get far less exposure to this guy as a player. So I think there's definitely an advantage there in dealing with him. That said, he was, for his standards, pretty average against Wales. So, I'd expect him to up his game massively. But if he does play the way that he did against Wales, I think he's less of a threat anyway. You've got to assume he's going to up his game. You've got to assume that they're all going to up their game for sure. But I think England are going to deal with him.
I think so. I think Faf de Klerk's too good a player to not have a good game.
Faf will dart. Underhill will destroy.
Underhill will bury, not destroy.
He'll pick him up. He'll carry him 20 yards back towards his own line, and then he'll carefully put him down. in a very, very legal manner.
Yeah.
And then he'll just go and do that again and again and again. It's going to be an interesting one. A quick question for you, slightly off topic, before I want to talk about some stats that I think are quite interesting. There's been a lot of talk about George Ford overcoming the adversity of being dropped to the bench against Australia, and he's come back again, to be called back in against New Zealand and to put in such a good performance against them. And is he finally out from under Farrell's shadow and all this sort of stuff? I want to ask you two things. One, do you think he sees it like that? Do you think he sees it as he was dropped? And I guess in the same vein, is it really a 23 or is it a 15 plus 8 from a player's perspective?
So a few things there. Firstly, it's not George Ford, it's Lord Ford.
Lord Ford.
Secondly, it's definitely a 23. The last Rising Suns episode, I know you will have watched, but Eddie, when they showed the thing, right, what we're going to play now is our finishing 23, and he named it, and this is before kickoff, and he'd named exactly how he finished the New Zealand game. So Eddie does play a 23. It's not just, it's not just him.
Well,
I think
he's said, hasn't he? He picks, they pick their finishing 23. Sorry, they pick their finishing 15 before they pick their starting 15. And obviously there's the vast majority of those are playing 80 minutes. But yeah, the point being that actually the key is those 8 players that are going to finish the game. And then it's, and I guess I wouldn't say that Cole and Marler were the more important props, because I think what Sink and Mako offer rugby in general is just something a bit special. But they all have their roles to play, and when Cole and Marler come on, they bring something very different. And I guess therefore, in terms of the attacking threat that the pack offers, it's like, okay, job done. Because the last 20 minutes, it's all about the backs, and the pack need to just become a bit more old school and a bit more just sort of maybe aggressive and just bring a kind of an uplift in physicality.
And yeah, I completely agree to that. And one of the best things that's happened to this England team is, I believe, this Leicester being so shit last year. Because, like we say, Lord Ford was awesome last year, constantly on back ball. He now, I think the fact he's got that experience, if we find ourselves in that position, I don't believe we will. If we do, he's got it. He's like, don't worry, I've got this. I know what's going on, boys. Don't worry about it.
Do you think, short of injury, do you think we'll see Spencer playing on Saturday?
Good question. Do I think we'll see Spencer playing? So I think there's two cases. I think the plan is probably to keep Ben Youngs on as long as possible. I think if we've got a comfortable lead, because Ben Spencer controls the game very well. I think if we're perhaps, say, as we were against New Zealand with, say, 9 minutes to go, we're 19-7 up as we were against New Zealand. Spencer's not a bad person to bring on. He can control the game very well. I think we'll see Spencer at some point.
Fine. So he'll definitely
But I don't think it'll be long. I think we'll see him for
10 minutes.
I don't think we'll see him for 20, 25 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes sort of scenario.
Interesting. Okay. So I want to leave you with some interesting stats. I've tried to keep this fair, because I think there is a response from the South African side, and bottom line, stats don't mean jack shit when it comes down to the game on Saturday, but they're still fun to look at. So the first one, which is awesome, which is all about England. England lost to Australia in 1991. 12 years later, they beat them in the final in 2003. England lost to South Africa in 2007. 12 years later, they played them in the final in 2019.
Nice. Nice. I like that one a lot.
Unfortunately, South Africa's response would be South Africa have won every 3 years, 95, 07, and it's now 19.
Yeah.
So, yeah. South Africa have never lost a final. Admittedly, they've only been in 2, so this is their third one, but, it's a stat. Yeah. Whereas this is England's 4th final.
It's our 3rd.
Are you sure?
Yeah. No, it's
91,
not 91,
03, 07, and now this one.
It's our fourth. Yeah.
Come on, Dan, you're the England Rugby Pod. Got
Something
they've been in the final. Obviously, the big one, no team has ever lost a game and gone on to win the Rugby World Cup.
That's true.
And South Africa obviously lost to New Zealand.
Yeah.
So this would be a first if they were able to turn England over. So, yeah, obviously the only real important one there is lose to Australia 91, 12 years later, beat them in 03. Lose to South Africa 07, 12 years later, beat them in 2019.
2019. This is it. This is so big. This pod to me, I feel like we've been quite understated, but all week we've just been building up. We need to sort of try and hold back the excitement. This is, to a lot of people, this is going to be the biggest, to a lot of England fans, this is going to be the biggest rugby match we'll ever watch. I hope. So question I've got for you then, I know that everyone always says it's just another game and things, and all the England players are saying that, but that's not real. I mean, if they win this game, here's the reality. If they win this game, it changes their life for good. How much?
Sir Maro of Itoje becomes Sir Maro of Itoje.
Yeah, exactly. Cornwall changes to Itoje. That's the county will be named Itoje. I don't know why Cornwall.
Why Cornwall?
Yeah, he's not from Cornwall.
No, he's not.
But it will be. It's such a huge game. I think what I believe here is Eddie's the right man to keep that under check.
Yeah, 100%. This is not his first rodeo.
It's not.
He took Australia to the final in 03. He was involved with South Africa in 07. Now, obviously, with England in 19. Obviously, the upset with Japan in 15. He's been involved in massive World Cup related things. He's got so much experience when it comes to this, and I think he'll know exactly how to manage the players and manage expectations and manage and keep them calm, cool, collected, because it is important that they see this as just another game. And I think I get what you're saying. Like, can you really see a World Cup final as just another game? I think this England team under Eddie Jones can.
I think they can, as much as it's possible to do that. I mean, it's still a World Cup final. I mean, that's not.
But I think I think it's at 80 minutes when the game is over.
Yeah,
and England have won. That's when you see the England team just kind of, it's like break the spell. Eddie Jones spell gets broken at that point, and that's when they can be themselves and celebrate. And it'll be interesting to see. It'll be good to see like some of the personalities, just see their reaction when all the pressure is finally just gone. I just hope that we get to see it.
So huge. This is so huge. I am ridiculously pumped for this. I am looking forward to this game so much. And do you know what? And this is my personal opinion. Whatever happens, I think this England team has done us massively proud this World Cup. And
without question.
And, thanks very much. Guys, if, as was suggested, if any of you are listening, best of luck for Saturday. We 100% believe in you. We believe you'll do it. And I believe we're going to be world champions, and I believe we deserve to be world champions. And oh my God, this is come on, boys, come on. This is it. This is our year, mate. This is our year.
The calm, Dan, calm. The calm before the storm. Guys, thank you so much for joining us in officially our penultimate episode, but it's not, because regardless of what we do going forwards, we'll obviously be doing post-World Cup episodes, because it's going to need digesting whatever happens. So there will be some more to come, but obviously it's all been building to Saturday. So yeah, not long to go now. Amazing. Those of you that have been with us since the beginning, seriously amazing. But also anyone who's just joining us now and has been with us throughout. Huge thanks to all of you guys for tuning in and for reaching out to us and commenting. Keep those coming. There's still time. Email us, EnglandRugbyPod@gmail.com, or you can get hold of us on social media at EnglandRugbyPod. And of course, there's still, if you want to head over to iTunes, rate us, review us, let us know what you think over there. That's also awesome. And yeah, we will be back bright and breezy. Maybe not breezy. Definitely bright and early. Saturday morning for the 2019 Rugby World Cup final. England against South Africa. History in the making.